everyone, and welcome to Science Lab. The signs are happening because the Lord Jesus is coming.
Every day we are looking at some of the signs that are happening around us. Today we are going to look at some of the end time signs happening in Europe.
Now, how did Germany plan to win World War III? It has to do with oil, and it nearly worked for them in World War II.
75 years after Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, Germany is once again a major military power. It is the world's fourth largest weapons exporter. Last year, German arms manufacturers sold $8 billion worth of weapons.
Now, most of these weapons went to the German military, but around 15% were exported to Germany's strategic partners around the world. Leopard 2 battle tanks and high-tech German armaments were an especially hot commodity among Arab monarchs, North African autocrats, and Latin American presidents.
Like most nations that sell weapons, Germany is after more than profit. It is building military alliances. In particular, Germany is arming Sunni Arab nations in a long-term strategy to undermine the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran controls 15% of the world's oil. The German-led European Union is the world's second biggest energy importer. Around 30% of EU oil imports and 39% of EU gas imports come from Russia. Germany is dependent on this oil and gas. United States President Donald Trump is calling on Germans to buy US liquefied natural gas instead, so they will not be totally controlled by Russia. But this would make Germany more dependent on America. If the Germans want the EU to become a self-sustaining, self-sufficient military power, they need Middle East oil.
The geopolitical realities Germany faces today are similar to the ones it faced during World War II. In many ways, the European theater was a fight over the petroleum Adolf Hitler needed to fuel the German Reich.
The Nazis made several strategic mistakes that contributed to their ultimate defeat. But Bible prophecy shows that the Germans have learned from these mistakes and have devised a secret strategy to win World War III.
We don't understand German thoroughness from the very start of the World War II. They have considered the possibility of losing the second round as they did the first, and they have carefully, methodically planned in such eventuality the third round, World War III, Hitler has caused. This round of war in Europe is over, and the Nazis have now gone underground. Now a Nazi underground is methodically planned. They plan to come back and to win on the third try. World War II began on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. After the Nazis conquered Poland and France, Adolf Hitler sent a Nazi force to North Africa under the command of Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. After the Nazis conquered Poland and France, Adolf Hitler sent a Nazi force to North Africa under the command of Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. 4 months later, he launched a surprise attack on the Soviet Union. These invasions of North Africa and the Soviet Union changed Germany's war from a one-front conflict against a weakened Britain into a three-front fight against Britain, the Soviet Union, and France's North African colonies. Why did Hitler invade North Africa and the Soviet Union before he conquered Britain? He needed oil. Rommel was trying to capture the Suez Canal, which would have opened a route to the oil field of the Middle East. Meanwhile, Field Marshal Wilhelm List was trying to conquer the Soviet oil field in the Caucasus Mountains. British troops halted Rommel's advance at the Second Battle of El Alamein. Russian troops halted List's advance at the Battle of Stalingrad. These two battles were the beginning of the end for Hitler's Third Reich.
By 1944, German access to oil had been seriously impaired, and the results were devastating, wrote Gregory Brew in How Oil Defeated the Nazis at oilprice.com. The Luftwaffe, Germany's mighty air force, was grounded, and panzer divisions couldn't maneuver for fear of using up precious oil.
German army units lacked mobility and couldn't respond quickly when the Allied armies arrived on the shores of Normandy. Lack of fuel crippled the German army. On May 8, 1945, Hitler committed suicide after his army scrambled from lack of men, equipment, and fuel.
Many military minds believe that Hitler could have won World War II if he had directed Germany's forces south instead of east.
With a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union already in place and most of Western Europe under his control, Hitler could have chosen to invade the Middle East before attacking Russia. How would this have worked out?
A German Mediterranean option would have been very different than invading the Soviet Union, wrote Michael Peck in What If Hitler Never Invaded Russia During World War II? Instead of a huge Axis land army of 3 million men, the Mediterranean would have been a contest of ships and aircraft, supporting relatively small numbers of ground troops through the vast distances of the Middle East. With the Soviet Union remaining neutral and continuing to ship resources to Germany under the Nazi-Soviet pact, Germany would have been able to concentrate the Luftwaffe in the Mediterranean. Assuming the Axis were successful in the Middle East, the Soviets would have faced a German-Italian expeditionary force advancing north through the Caucasus. Perhaps Turkey would have joined the rising Axis tide. Another year would also have given Germany more time to loot and exploit the resources of conquered Western Europe. In fact, Field Marshal Rommel lamented that Germany did not enact a similar strategy to the scenario Peck described. After his defeat at the Battle of El Alamein, the famed commander wrote, "We could have defeated and destroyed the British field army, and that would have opened the road to the Suez Canal. With the entire Mediterranean coastline in our hands, supplies could have been shipped to North Africa and molested." It would then have been possible to thrust forward into Persia and Iraq in order to cut off the Russians from Basra, which became a major source of Russian oil after Hitler invaded, take possession of the oil fields, and create a base for an attack of southern Russia. Rommel believed Germany would have won World War II if it had invaded the Middle East first.
Together with firms in Austria, France, and the Netherlands, German energy companies are spending over $5 billion to build a Nord Stream 2 pipeline under the Baltic Sea. This pipeline will transport 55 billion cubic meters of Russian natural gas to Germany each year, reducing Western Europe's reliance on gas from Eastern Europe and from the United States.
But German leaders do not want to be dependent on Russian gas forever. In fact, Germany's government opposes President Trump's economic sanction against Iran because these sanctions hurt Iran's biggest oil company, Persian Gulf Petrochemical Industries Co.
Germany is trying to set up a new payment mechanism called Instex, which it can be used to buy Iranian oil. This EU-backed system will be based on barter transaction, thus eliminating incriminating money trails. It will allow European firms to buy Iranian oil without risk of prosecution for circumventing US sanctions.
And now it's time for the trivial question of the day. What is Germany most known for?
We have three options for you. Option A, machinery. Option B, mobile. Or option C, military. We'll find out the answer after a short break.